talk amongst your rows. There's 3 in a row. You're going to talk amongst yourselves and take notes. And then at the end, as a group, you're going to vote. So I can't remember all 12 things that I'm watching, right? All the presentations. So I need to take notes and know what I thought about it, who was good, who, what I want to do. So there's going to be 4 sheets. It's for 2 people to take notes, 1 person in each row. Is there questions about that? Yeah, each person. So 1 person in each row gets 2 pieces of paper because you need enough to take notes for 12 people. You will not take notes on your own, obviously, and you won't take notes on the presentation before you because you'll be practicing in the office. Okay? And so if you need a clipboard or a pencil out there, you can borrow one.
Good morning. Good morning. Take the deep breath. It's going to be fine. Certainly, during the senior presentations the other day, the seniors told one of their colleagues, peers rather, that the single most effective thing when they were stressed getting ready for their capstone presentation was taking a deep breath. So I'm not just being silly. That truly is literally a big help when you're nervous. Today we are not going to have breaks because we needed to move through all of the topics. So if you need to use the restroom, please pop out the back door at any point in time. The restrooms are literally across the hall from this door if you're not familiar. And certainly just pop right back in. I think Ms. Bunovich has already mentioned that your sheet that you have that you're scoring the presentations on, there won't be a score for your group. There won't be a score for the group just prior to you, because Ms. Bunovich will come get you and you'll go across the hall and practice for a few minutes before you come to give your actual presentation. There's also water in the hallway if you should need any of that along the day as well. There is a magic clicker that someone in the group I will hand, and if you need 2 microphones, I'll ask the group on that side to go grab the one off the judge's table and give the group on this side this microphone. Okay? All right, momentarily we will get rolling. All right, folks, the first group this morning will be discussing genetic modifications in agriculture.
Hi, my name's Katie. This is Anna, Kaylee, Levi, and Delaney. Our proposal is that we should be using more CRISPR in agriculture. We decided to pick this topic because of the scarce food supply in Virginia, and we believe that CRISPR will increase the nutritional value of the crops, and in the long run this will mean more for less, which means you can have a smaller quantity of food, but the nutritional value would be the same as if you had double the amount. And CRISPR is really good for this topic because it rewrites the genetic code, so we can rewrite the genetic code and it'll give a more nutritional value to the plants.
Okay, so CRISPR stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats, and it was discovered through scientists studying bacteria's immune systems. And what bacteria do is they change their own DNA to better suit their environment. And so scientists developed this into CRISPR-Cas9, which uses an enzyme called Cas9 to attach to a DNA strand and unwind it. Then a guide RNA is able to bind to the DNA strand, and then Cas9 cuts it so that it can be modified. Once they're finished modifying the DNA strand, it winds itself back up and you have a modified gene.
Farmers have been doing a lot to try to keep the growing population fed, one of which is vertical farming with limited space. And what this is in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see they go into greenhouses and they plant their crops on shelves because the ground doesn't have the desirable traits needed for growing. And we believe with CRISPR we can enable those desirable crop traits and disable those undesirable ones so we can have a larger crop yield. And CRISPR is not only used in the farming background, but it's also used in the medical field, and it's used in areas with the blood in the eyes.
Okay, so one of the most significant issues we are facing in our country is the decreasing amount of agricultural produce. In 2007, there were around 921,000 acres of farmland, but in 2021, there were only around 895,000 acres, which was about a 2.8% decrease in 14 years. Additionally, while there were 2.2 million farmers in 2007, in 2021, there were only around 2.01 million farmers, which is about an 8.6% decrease in the same amount of time. What this means for our country is that we depend on other places for our food supply, and as it's working right now, if there was an international emergency, we would not be able to get the food we were needed.
Good morning, I'm Kaylee, and I'll be going over our group's overview for this project. We've split it up into 3 main points. First, by using CRISPR to modify the seeds, we can provide an increased food source for the Charlottesville residents by increasing the plant's nutritional value. Next, we believe this goal is fairly realistic as everything is easily accessible and next, we can farm with chain seeds to increase nutritional value for the plants and provide more information about agriculture.
For the logistics, we're going to have a scientist who will use CRISPR, as previously talked about, to genetically modify the seeds. We will need 2 farmers to man the fields, and we will have 1 researcher to gather and analyze the data. The scientist will use the CRISPR technology to try and make the corn seeds more nutritional in value. So we would plant these genetically modified corn seeds in 1 acre, and we'd plant another acre of non-genetically modified corn seeds as tactic as a control. We would start this whole thing in March 2023, and then we'd harvest in late September 2023. The point of this is to try and have to compare the nutritional values between the two for humans and for animals. The gene editing will happen in Charlottesville, and the farm itself is in Greene, Virginia. And it can be considered successful if, in the long run, the malnutrition in the surrounding area goes down after the information that we've gained from this project is enacted upon.
In total, our budget is $600,000 with the safety net, and majority of our money will go to our corn seeds and our farmers. And with all that being said, with our safety net, it's so large, so if we have any mishaps, it will help us. And yeah, we just need that for it to go efficiently.
Wrapping up our presentation, we've gone over CRISPR, some current actions, some issues in agriculture, the logistics of our project, and the budget. For this project, we're asking for $600,000 with the safety net, but the lowest is $490,000 without. That's the end of our presentation, and I'll open the floor for any questions.
I'll speak, boys. I'll be okay. Here we go. I'll use mine. Yeah, I know. We're both. Very good. If I have one question that might lead to 2. So using CRISPR, I understand the idea of genetically modifying the corn and then seeing if it gives you more nutrition on it. And I'm asking an open question, what gene, what's your change? Do you have a proposed what you're changing on the corn seeds, or I'll leave that open-ended for a second.
So we would need like lots of research to go into what specific gene to edit, but in general we could edit pretty much any gene to like biofortify it in a certain aspect. So it's pretty open to whatever.
So you're looking for biofortification, something that's going to increase nutrient value of the corn.
Yeah. And once we do it with like one gene, we could open it up to more possibly. So.
And then I'm going to go to the second question. What would be a nutrient value that you find beneficial in corn for nutrition?
That would have to be researched more. But in general, I feel like people usually think of corn as like not having much nutritional content, but it is a food source. So I feel like we could try to find something that we could biofortify, and that way corn has a purpose.
Hi, thank you guys. Good job. I had a question about the measurables you're looking at the end there. So you're going to do this project, you're going to grow some corn on 2 acres, and then I think you were going to measure the amount of the starvation levels of the surrounding area. Is that what we were going for? Maybe we can go back to that slide. Right, here we are. So the success rate is measured using the starvation of humans?
The starvation level in the surrounding area of like the Charlottesville area, if it goes down after we give the information that we get from this project to other people who can make more of it, and the starvation goes down, we can consider that successful.
Okay, so the nutrition levels of people that you feed this food to,
Yes.
something like that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just curious about that. It sounds good. Thank you.
Hey, super quick, just a reminder, I'm just throwing this out, I know it's already been said once, but as groups, be sure that you're taking notes. So if you go, I remember group 1, I remember group 4, I remember group 8. Because if you don't take any notes whatsoever, as was stated, you're going to get to the end and go, I don't really know who I want to give money to, let's just throw it at somebody. And that's not a great idea.
You're turning your notes into your teachers, so they're going to see what you took for notes during this.
Just repeating that, I know it's been said, just repeating.
All right, folks, this is the stem cell theory group.
Okay, hi everyone. Today we're talking about postpartum stem cell therapy. I'm Anna.
I'm Naya.
Jasper.
I'm Isaiah.
And I'm Jay.
Okay. The field of stem cell research is a wide and varied one, but the portion of this research that we believe deserves the most funding and research is the portion dedicated to postpartum stem cell therapy. Postpartum stem cells are made possible by the phenomenon of fetal microchimerism. This is when the stem cells from the fetus migrate through the placenta and into the mother. These stem cells have the same capacities as embryonic stem cells without actually being embryonic stem cells. This solves many moral issues and can save countless numbers of lives. These stem cells are detectable in the mother by 6 weeks gestation and by the end of the childbearing period appear in virtually all organs and can stay in the mother even after childbirth. These stem cells migrate to needing areas of the mother. For example, during pregnancy, the mother's heart is often under a lot of stress. These stem cells will actually move to the heart and repair anything that needs repairing there. These stem cells were first theorized about in 1893 by George Morrell, who called them placental multinucleated syncytial giant cells. Later on, in 1956, their existence was definitively proven by Bromberg and his team when they were able to extract one of these stem cells from the mother's blood. Currently, the New York Mount Sinai Hospital is the forerunner of this research. Their most recent study in 2021 showed that these stem cells can be extracted from the mother organism and then placed in another organism, and they still retain their locomotive and healing properties. In 2015, Brian and his team were able to do a study regarding how these stem cells affect cancer, if they are present in tumors, if they're not present in tumors, if they help fight cancer, or if they help cause cancer. In 2014, O'Donoghue and his team were able to find exactly how these stem cells move around the mother's body and how they go about repairing the maternal tissues. In 2012, the full extent of these stem cells in the mother was discovered when it was found that these stem cells also permeate the nervous system in addition to the cardiovascular system. These stem cells are also found in the mother's brain. In 2021, the cardiovascular impact of these stem cells was discovered when it was found that these stem cells are not only present in the bloodstream, but also present in the heart and arteries. Now, the same concerns for these stem cells are the same as with many other kinds of stem cells, and that is the autoimmune disease impact. The only two autoimmune diseases that seem to have a cells are Sjogren's syndrome and systemic scoliosis. It is believed that these are caused by these stem cells due to the presence of trace amounts of these stem cells in external lesions and peripheral blood caused by these diseases. However, most other autoimmune diseases are not caused by these stem cells, as these diseases such as hepatitis C show no presence of stem cells.
So the issue with stem cell therapy is that the available cells are scarce, which make them very costly. Luckily, researchers have found that in a woman's postpartum body, these cells are able to move around anywhere in the body that's needed and help form any damaged or dying organ tissue. After the mother's given birth, the cells are capable of staying alive and active in her body for up to decades. If we were to raise the money for this research, we would use it to equip labs within universities all throughout Virginia with the proper equipment needed to perform this research and tests with stem cells. Further funding for this research would be helpful to finding new ways to safely extract cells and transfer them into other people's bodies for treatment. Lastly, funding this research would not only be beneficial to postpartum stem cell research, but also ultimately lead to finding new ways to develop this stem cell research therapy.
Goals are essential to success, but they are useless without a plan in place. So, what are the specific steps that we need to take in order to achieve this goal? The first thing we have to do is get in touch with the actual colleges that we plan to supply the technology to. We can't just show up one day with a truck full of thousands of dollars of stem cell technology and tell them to take it from there. No, we have to create an individual plan for each of these schools that works for them. Secondly, we need to purchase the actual equipment. I won't talk in much detail about this, but Jay will cover it in the budget section. Leading off of these first 2 points, we will also have to help with any unforeseen problems or logistics that arise during the planning process. This will be very case dependent on the schools and their actual problems as they come up. The last thing we will need to do is, once we've supplied them with all this, is we may have to help install any technologies that they are unfamiliar with. Some of the stem cell equipment is very cutting edge, new stuff, so we will have to help them become familiar with the uses of the technology. This is arguably the most important part because it could prove to be the most helpful. Our goal is to see an increase in knowledge in the scientific community by helping these schools. In order to make our help as helpful as possible, proper planning and execution is essential.
For the proposed budget, we decided that it'd be a good idea to choose 5 universities and 7 different materials to fund these universities' stem cell therapy research. We decided for 5 universities, we chose University of Virginia, UVA, West Virginia, VCU, William & Mary, and West Virginia. I think I already said that. UVA, West Virginia, VCU, we chose 5 universities for this. And for the 7 different materials, we chose 2 apheresis machines, which are $50,000 each. For reference, apheresis machines actually use human blood, and they take apart different parts of the human blood, such as blood plasma, white blood cells, red blood cells, and for this use, it would be for stem cells, which actually come from embryonic cells. And we also decided 2 medical use pipettes, which minimum would be $102 and maximum would be $372.50. 4 vacuum flasks, which minimum would be $4,916, maximum would be $9,620, and low-speed centrifuges, which would be $639 each in United States dollars, and 3 100 times microscopic lenses, which would be minimum $100 each, and maximum would be $2,000 each. These microscopic lenses would help with, once they actually use the apheresis machine, to actually tell the differences between red blood cells, white blood cells, and the actual embryonic cells that we need. And we would also use 1 cryogenic freezer, which would be minimum of $11,000, maximum would be $447,000 each. And to cool these cryogenic freezers, which, for reference, cryogenic freezers would actually cool the contents in a very, very, very low temperature so that they could use these for research purposes. And to actually cool them, we would use liquid helium tanks. And each university would get 6 liquid helium tanks, which would be $1.35 per liter. And for reference, we used a 1 cryogenic freezer, which uses 231 liters of liquid helium, since it is unknown the actual basis of a normal cryogenic freezer. So we use that as a basis, and for the math, it would add up to be $311.85 for 1 tank. And the minimum cost altogether, including United States tax in Virginia, would add up to be $134,317, and the maximum cost would be $195,373. This does not include shipping or installation costs, which is why we did leave out a small portion for installation or transportation costs, and this would also be helpful for gas money or diesel prices if we do decide to use a truck or maybe like a U-Haul or something like that. And that would also, the tax included was about 5.3% in Virginia for the products that we decided to buy.
To recap, stem cells are cells that are cells that can be manipulated into becoming any type of somatic cell. These cells help repair organs or just assist organs that may need it, and postpartum stem cells can be found in the mother's body after birth and can be used to assist organs that need it as well. These can be extracted from the mother's body and injected into others as an effective way of transplantation, and postpartum stem cells are abundant, which makes them more effective than organ transplants. The cells have not been fully researched yet, and research is not funded by the government, but our goal was to reach out to 5 different universities in Virginia and supply them with the materials that they would need to further their research on postpartum cells and stem cells. Most of these universities have the programs to increase their knowledge on stem cells, but do not have the materials to do so. For any moral concerns, postpartum stem cells basically act as embryonic stem cells, but do not have to be extracted from the embryo. These will also be able to expand the access of stem cell therapy. And after hearing everything, our group should be funded $1 million to supply these universities for the materials that they would need to further their research and development on stem cells and postpartum stem cell therapy. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
just on the budget to clear it up. Those amounts were for each university.
I just remembered the last university I chose as well. I'm very sorry. It was Old Dominion was the last one I chose.
Great, but I'm just wondering about those were the numbers for each university?
Yes.
That's correct? Okay, cool. Yeah, that adds up. All right, great. Thank you.
All right, the next group will be speaking about organ transplantation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Allie, this is Cooper, Piper, Sadie, and Patrick, and today we're talking about xenotransplantation. Due to an unfortunate illness, one of our members could not make it, so we will be doing the introduction and conclusion for them. Our topic is xenotransplantation, which is the idea of taking animal organs and transplanting them into humans. This topic came to Providence due to the organ crisis shortage, and we hope to use xenotransplantation to reduce this issue. Xenotransplantation is an important topic in biotechnology because it gives the hope of saving more lives as well as improving life's quality.
While there's currently no government program specialized in xenotransplantation, there's a lot of university research going on, and there's a lot of worldwide grants and revolving around xenotransplantation, up over 400 million. And there's been successful transplantation using xenotransplantation, and they give us hope. One of the main cases being a 57-year-old patient who did not qualify for a regular heart transplant, so he was given a 14 or tape heart, and he did not reject the organ, giving us hope for using xenotransplantation in the future. He unfortunately did die 2 months later, but it was due to a disease that we'll talk about later. Modern science is, there's a split public support around xenotransplantation revolving ethical concerns such as the need to get the organs from the animals and possible zoonotic diseases that could be given humans from those animals.
One major issue with xenotransplantation is that the animals that we get these organs from often have diseases in them. This wouldn't usually be an issue for humans, considering that the disease cannot easily move to a human body. However, when it becomes dangerous when placed directly into the human immune system. One specific example we chose to highlight is the porcine endogenous retrovirus, or PER for short. This disease is frequently found in the guts of pigs and is extremely deadly when paired with xenotransplantation. We hope to fund research in order to develop a cure for this virus.
As Cooper shared, one of the major issues with xenotransplantation is the possibility of contracting diseases, and that major disease is PERV. My group and I have decided that we would fund an experiment on how PERV works and optimistically conclude a prevention for PERV. This is important action to take because it will reduce the risk of human recipients obtaining infected transplant tissue.
7 hired lab technicians will be carrying out this proposal in a rented-out lab space in Louisa, Virginia. The proposal will take place from January of 2024 through October of 2024. As 3 months will be spent waiting for the piglets to grow up, 3 weeks will be spent inactivating the PERV's genome, 2 weeks will be spent isolating and sterilizing the piglets, 3 months will be spent examining the PERV inactivated pig cells when in contact with human cells, and finally 1 month will be spent concluding the results. These actions will be measured by the advancement of xenotransplantation, specifically regarding whether or not PERV inactivated pig cells are a safe and viable option for the future. We will know if our plan is successful if xenotransplantation with PERV inactivated pigs can be done successfully.
We are asking for a grant of $679,937 to complete our research. Above is a breakdown of our budget. First, we will be renting out a 28,000 square foot to ensure the cleanliness of this experiment. Our filtered air vents cost $15 for a pack of 24. We will be using 1 gallon of peracetic acid diluted in 3 gallons of UV filtered water per pig. It costs $50 per gallon of this disinfectant, and we need it costs $50 per 1 gallon of this disinfectant, and we need 14 gallons. In total, this will cost $700. We'll be inputting a UV water purification system for $1,100. This system is said to kill 99.9% of bacteria. This is the water the pigs will be drinking, and as stated earlier, will be used in the disinfectant bath. Once the pigs are born, they will be placed in isolation pens. These pens will be 2,000 square feet each and cost $750. In total, this will cost us $10,500. The immortalized pig cell line, which will be edited and made into PERV inactivated pigs, will cost us $610. CRISPR, the tool that will be used to edit these pig cell lines, cost us $18,778. The human cells that will be used during testing will cost us $1,500. As said earlier, we will be hiring 7 lab technicians, which will cost us $52,672 each year per lab technicians, totaling up to $368,704. If we go to the next slide, you can see an expense chart of a breakdown of our budget to help everyone better understand what we will be using our money for. There are some current issues revolving around xenotransplantation, with the biggest being the porcine endogenous retrovirus, also known as the PERV disease. We are asking for this grant money to help research and hopefully put a stop to this disease being transmitted to humans during organ transplantation. According to the CDC, 17 people die waiting for an organ each day. With this grant money, we hope to decrease this amount and make organ transplantation a more safe and effective option. If you want to help save thousands of lives a year, please consider granting us this money. Thank you. We're now open for questions. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we found on a website a CRISPR budget, basically, where they would, so PK15 is the cell line that we will be editing, because that's the cell line that has porcine endogenous retrovirus. And we inputted that into the website, and it basically did a cost breakdown for us of how much it would cost to edit each cell line, and it totaled up to $18,778. Yes, ma'am. I actually found a lot of scholarly articles online of people doing similar experiments, but at larger scales, where we would be just doing ours in Louisa to kind of do a smaller scale experiment. Yes, because pig is the most common xenotransplantation.
There were the universities such like there was Utah and Maryland Medicine. They both had a couple professors and scholar surgeons that were heavily involved in the xenotransplantation and working on it. And there's been a lot of grants for xenotransplantation in the past. As I said, $440 million of worldwide grants.
Check 1, 2.
All right, the next group is presenting on genetic testing.
Everyone, my name is Art with
Aaron Hatfield. I'm Hannah Hatfield.
Robert. Josh. And today we're doing our genetic testing. We're asking money for genetic testing. Okay. So genetic testing was first a thing in the 1950s. Back then, we were counting chromosomes instead of using the advanced machine right now, the technology we have. And what we're doing is we're going to different schools and educating the young generation on genetic testing. Because not too much people know about it.
Many children learn the basics of genetic testing during their science courses, and many of the programs for genetic testing are usually for those who are more advanced and in the high school or college level range. And although educating kids about genetic testing more in depth is a good idea, there are concerns about it, like including lack of interest, embarrassed to go to the event, or people who feel too cool to go to the event.
So the next generations that are coming up will be the ones doing the genetic research for years to come, and if they don't know much about it, then we can't progress in the information that we know. And we're trying to have kids learn more so that then they maybe take interest in it and get jobs in the field of genetic testing. And we're going to go to all 7 schools in the BRVGS district.
So in order to solve this issue, we're going to hire genetic counselors to come to a total of 15 schools, which will be all middle schools and high schools associated with BRVGS. Now, the genetic counselors will come and present and do an experiment with the students so that they can be engaged and actually take away something about genetic testing from the event. Now, we decided upon this because it's cost efficient, as most of the budget revolves around hiring genetic counselors, which is relatively cheap. It's simple. We're going to 15 schools and we're just presenting to each grade. And it's localized because all the schools are located in Central Virginia, so we don't have to go very far for it.
So how we will test if this was successful is by giving the kids a test before the presentation and event to see their knowledge on genetic testing beforehand, and then after to try and help and see how much they learned. As Robert said, we will go to all 7 schools and we will hold this event in either the cafeterias of the school or outside if weather provides, and the event should take place from around 10 o'clock to 2:30.
Budget? No. The budget of our proposal only encompasses a total of 2 items. The first item being that we need speakers to come in to speak to the students in the presentation, and they need to be genetic counselors so they have background knowledge on the subject they're talking about so they can speak more effectively and answer questions. Second item that we have is that we need about 30,000 promotional stickers, so that we can inspire the students to be more attentive and retain the knowledge that they learned through the presentation, which will cost about $625 for the speakers and $2,000 per day that we hire the genetic counselors to speak in the presentations for. On the slide, there is a typo. It says per day. That was supposed to say in total, and it's supposed to say stickers on the second point of the slide.
So in total, our conclusion is that genetic testing is an important subject that kids need to learn about. The next generation of kids will be the ones researching and advancing genetic testing. We only ask $28,625 for this project, so that
only for an activity that can help learn kids and teach kids and advance their knowledge in genetic testing.
Any questions? We are just going to teach them a little bit more about genetic testing, and we're going to hopefully bring in some experiments so that then they can have some hands-on experiments.
This is what genetic testing is. Don't be afraid of it, as I saw on the other slide. Don't kind of stigma to it. All right.
Okay, we'll use your paper and whoever has the neater handwriting. Lily, you got it. Don't throw your stuff away. I don't have one that's right one. Yeah, like can I throw this paper away after we get all her notes on that paper? Yeah. Okay, because that's what we do. Do you want to get my water bottle with you? I'm still confused. Wait, so like they each one person here, one person here, are both taking notes. One person here, one person here, right. Okay. So at the top, put one person right. Okay. One person here. Yep. And so as a team, at the end, you're going to compare those two notes as a team. And that's how you're going to give your money. Okay.
If we can settle back, please. All right, if you can wind up conversation on the previous presentation and get ready for this one. They're going to be talking about performance-enhancing drugs.
Okay, I'm Lily. This is Emmeline, Abby, Kevin, and George, and our topic is on performance-enhancing drugs. Okay, our proposal is to educate high schoolers on the detrimental effects of PEDs. We plan to travel to 50 different high schools in Central Virginia to influence students to have a healthy, more natural, and less dangerous approach to athletics. This topic came to prominence when studies have shown that the use of PEDs has increased in high schoolers. And this topic is important in biochemistry today because the future has been and will be affected if nothing.
There are always new substances and improvements to previously existing substances, which creates a need for research in regards to methods of testing and the effects and risks of PEDs. There are organizations like the Mayo Clinic, a American medical center, which are specifically devoted to researching all kinds of different medical things. And the Mayo Clinic has done a lot of research into the effects and risks of performance-enhancing drugs. Another organization which deals with a different topic is the WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, which deals with the prohibition of PEDs in sports. It deals with the rules and regulations, and what it does is it keeps the rules consistent throughout the world to keep sports fair.
Our group plans to address the issue of education involving drugs, and so high schoolers lack the knowledge and education to fully understand the detrimental effects of drugs. And over the past few years, students have according to a study done by the National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA, which stated that steroids and other substances by high schoolers have been in use from 1992 to 2003 increasingly. So, for example, steroids have been increasing from 1.2% in 1992 to 2.1% in 2003. And according to the graph, which states the increase of steroids and synthetic human growth hormones, HGH, and the light blue line, which shows steroids from 2009 to 2013, has grown from 5% to 7%, and HGH, which has grown from only in 1 year, 5% to 11%. And specifically, athletes and minors have been affected, which is why education and awareness is very important.
Since minors are the most affected group of people, we have decided that high school seminars are the best way to reach a lot of people in a relatively short amount of time. These seminars will hopefully help minors to understand the negative effects of when you choose to use drugs. So some of these negative effects are greasy hair, oily skin, unbalanced hormones, mood swings, anger issues. Some of these are just some of the things that can happen when you choose to use drugs. Along with just highlighting the negative effects, we hope to have students learn better ways for them to hopefully grow in their sports and be better. Along in these seminars, we will have pre and post tests, which will hopefully show that your funding has actually done something. In the post test, we hope to have most students get a 75% or higher, and we're really not asking for that much. We just want a little bit of money to hopefully help teach students that PEDs are not the way to go and to get better. Yes.
The logistics for our proposal, we decided to host seminars throughout high schools in Central Virginia, and we will have 4 employees go to 50 seminars throughout 50 different schools in Virginia. And our goal for the project is for the students to get at least a 75% on the post test, and overall hope to decrease PED use in minors by at least 2026.
So with the budget of our proposal, we are asking for $650,000. To start off, advertising will take about $30,000, with an additional $175 for flyers that will be hung around local high schools and gyms around Central Virginia to promote the proposal. And then next will be buildings, which are $12,000 a year. This is just to organize our proposal and have like staff and everything, which brings me to my next point of staff, which will be about $150,000, because that will include a manager, publicist, and speaker. The largest portion, obviously, is travel, which is about $475,000. We plan to travel to 50 schools around Central Virginia. And next is the little extra portion, which is just surveys to make sure that everything is right on track. And that only adds up to $637,000, which will give any necessary means that can be added. Also, this can always be changed if we want to go to less schools or more schools, just depending on how much budget we are given. High schoolers need to be educated on drug abuse. There have been laws placed to help regulate it, but studies have shown no significant change. We request this money to travel to show students that the use of PEDs is unhealthy and dangerous. Our main objective is to show students that they need to understand the effect of drugs.
If you're going to put, I would ask, you reference back to drugs and PEDs. Would you agree as a group that there's a difference between the two?
Yes, there are drugs and illegal drugs, and there are PEDs, and there are, safe PEDs, and there are ones that are not so safe and acceptable.
Okay. And again, as a group, that's why I was asking if you would agree that the drugs and the PEDs kind of are separated from each other. There are some that are used and allowed to be used, and some that are not with that. And your educational process with it too, then you're looking for more just of somebody that's going to come into the schools. Any research as to how would I get this into a school? Anybody want to take that question on? Or did you research that at all? So do I just walk up and knock on the front door and say, hey, I want to introduce PEDs today in your school? Or what would be a way of getting that into the school? And again, you had your publicist, so that's why I was asking you to clarify back to that. Good, good. Okay.
Just had a quick question. I like how you're doing pre and post tests. That's a technique that you are probably familiar with at your schools as well. When you're educating these students about, like we talked about, drugs, right? Are you just trying to educate on performance-enhancing drugs? Are you planning on including any other, like vaping, whatever, other drugs in this as well? Okay, good. And do you think it would be more effective to educate the entire school or just the athletes? Okay, great. Thank you. Good job. Hey, real quickly, guys. There's just like a little talk in the background and stuff during the beginning of that presentation. Remember, you guys all spent a long time doing this whole semester, so respect your classmates and other people in BRVGS. Give them your attention. You should be taking notes. Please try to be quiet during the presentations. Okay, thank you.
All right, the next group will be discussing antibiotic resistance.
Hello, everyone. Our topic is antibiotic resistance. I'm Gary, this is Abby, and this is Kaylin. We're from Goochland. That's Nathan, and that's Olivia, and they're from Nelson.
An introduction to our proposal. So the main thing of our proposal is antibiotic resistance. So what is antibiotic resistance? Antibiotic resistance, how I like to think of it, is a bacterial shield. It's your body developing this disease that basically just makes it confused. It's confused about what is medicine and what is the bacteria that's getting infected with. So we see this antibiotic resistance become more popular, as seen on the graph, due to it being overused in society. Therefore, doctors, medical professionals, are prescribing this medicine, antibiotics, to more common diseases, flus, other diseases, just because it cures it fast and it cures it easy. But this leads to it being overused and just overall overused. Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. I have to talk about our proposal. I'm sorry. What is our proposal? So our proposal, we are asking for the full $1 million, and we are going to use half of it to fund more research and the other half to distribute the machines needed to make personalized antibiotics, which we will talk about a little bit more in the presentation.
Okay, so as for some current actions and events being done to combat antibiotic resistance, there are some short-term solutions in place, such as lectures on preparing food hygienically and washing your hands often, and also strongly suggesting vaccinations. That's where our proposal comes in. Our proposal stems from research coming from Oxford by Matthew Tracy and his team. They created a machine to basically predict which antibiotics would work best for certain illnesses and specific patients. This was labeled as personalized antibiotics. Of course, this is a newer discovery, so there are naturally some concerns, such as the possibility of overdosing or underdosing on medication. That is why we want to fund more research on this so we can make this idea a reality.
The first issue that occurred to us was when our first option of importing the machines from Oxford was decided against by our group because of the complications that came with that process. The second option that we did decide on was agreeing with Moderna to build our own machines in the United States because Moderna was more welcomed by the United States and was more trusted by us. The problems that might occur when we get the machines into hospitals is that the public might become wary and not trust machines, and some of the public might also not like that machines could replace jobs and could replace people that are working. There's also the fact that some hospitals might be willing to put the machines into use.
So what actions should we take to address, oh wait, this isn't on that slide.
The action that we will be taking to address this issue is the experimental and eventual commercialization use of personalized antibiotic machines. This is an important issue because antibiotic resistance is a growing health problem worldwide that causes prolonged illnesses, increased healthcare costs, and sometimes even death. What I think makes this action more attractive than others is that the fact that it uses antibiotics, which are medicines that fight infections caused by bacteria in humans and animals. And we use antibiotics on an everyday basis.
Now getting into the logistics of our proposal. So first, how will we get access to these machines? Olivia stated earlier that originally we were planning on partnering with Oxford in order to get these machines, but we later decided against it, and we are instead working with Moderna to manufacture the machines in the US and go from there. Secondly, how do we decide which hospitals that we're going to give them to? We chose centralized hospitals in Virginia that already have an established research program and are trusted by the people here. Some of the hospitals that we chose are the Johnston Willis Hospital, Reston Hospital Center, Spotsylvania Regional Medical Center, Stone Springs Hospital, and UVA. As you all know, UVA has an amazing research center and is highly trusted in the US. And how we judge the success once we get the machines into the hospitals. Success will be judged by, at the end of each year, we will ask the hospitals that we give these machines to provide a full research report on it, and including which patient it was used on, what the disease was, and what age group they fit in, so that we can get a full understanding of how well these machines work and who we should use them on most. And then lastly, what steps we'll use once we see the success. We hope to expand the distribution of our machines to more hospitals across Virginia, hopefully 15 by I think the next 2 years once we get into the flow of everything, and then eventually hopefully creating these machines for commercial use and profit.
Okay, the budget. So we are asking for the full $1 million, and we are going to use half of the money, $500,000, to go towards more research on the topic. We have noticed that although this topic is widely enjoyed, like people like it and people want to fund it, there hasn't been a whole lot of funding. So we are just using the money to kind of keep the train rolling, to kind of keep people with more funding these ideas so that we can have more precise and more accurate personalized antibiotics. We are also going to use the other half of our money to distribute these to medical facilities. We are not necessarily going to make the machines, just working towards distribution, and that can be working with partners with Moderna, just because they have experience working with personalized cancer vaccines. So we think that it would be a great idea to partner with them to help us make personalized antibiotic vaccines. And
so, in conclusion, our team is proposing a 50-50 split for our grant money. And the first half will go completely towards furthering knowledge on personalized antibiotics. Since it is not a widely researched topic, we want to change that. So we predict that by the end of 2025, we will have enough research on these antibiotic machines to move forward with commercialization. And that leads to the second half of our proposal, where the other $500,000 towards distributing these machines to 6 contracted hospitals in Virginia. This will be accomplished through a partnership with Moderna. So, why should it be funded in the first place? I'd like to take a moment to direct your attention to this photo over here. This photo shows the estimated deaths due to antimicrobial resistance in 2020 versus the proposed deaths in 2050. If each little person on this graph represents 100,000 deaths, you do the math. We want to have it so that we can change these proposed numbers, so we can expand the research, so we can find reliable answers to make sure these machines are doing their job safely and effectively, so we can overall kickstart curing. The projected death amount for 2050 is over 10 million deaths. Now that may seem like a big scary number at the moment, but this idea has the ability to change those numbers. All we need is a chance to do it. Thank you. We'd like to open the floor to questions.
Thank you. That's a cool idea. So this guy that has these machines in Oxford, does he have some sort of proprietary rights to them, or what's the deal with that?
So, would you mind explaining what? Oh yes. I believe he does own it because, again, he originally created this machine. I think he just did a lot of research on antibiotic resistance and wanted to possibly find a way to start researching a possible cure. And so, yes, he did create this machine.
That begs the question of, is he going to be okay with Moderna manufacturing the machines in the United States and distributing them to hospitals?
I think that is a part of the proposal that could be looked more into. I think that was the inclusion of partnering not just with Moderna, but we still have to communicate with Oxford as we're basing our machines off of theirs. and it's important to, I mean, we have to obviously talk to the guy who has a patent so that we can figure out a way to partner with Moderna and Oxford at the same time.
I was going to say that if we get this and we do end up successfully being able to partner with Moderna, that would be a step. And our plan is to make sure that we get permission from Matthew Tracy to move forward with commercializing these machines.
The next group will be speaking about human life extension.
My name is Tyler. This is Rebecca, Matthew, Elena, and Katie, and our topic is human life extension surgery. So, human life extension is in no way a new topic to us. We all know stories, immortality, God's fountain of youth. The first time it was actually seen in literature was the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was written about 4,000 years ago, which that's the earliest copy that was found. This was written around the age of Mesopotamia, so this is an old topic, not new. As these stories and knowledge evolved, it eventually reached philosophers such as Aristotle, who had his theory of aging, which was humans are naturally hot and wet, and as they get older, they slowly become colder and they slowly dry out, which he theorized that moisture is the key to youth. There are more human life extending your life was very, let's say, wanted in royalty, especially in such as Chinese emperors such as Qin Shi Huang, who dedicated his entire life to finding the elixir of youth, and he spent his entire life taking pills of youth, which ended up having mercury in them, and he eventually died from that. There There are other emperors, known such as Augustus. He didn't want to have himself seen as old, so many statues and paintings of him. He wanted them to be young, so there's not much to show us how he looked when he was in his older ages. Now, Dr. Frank Lodgden. This was in 1914. He had one of the first successful experiments conducted that included extending your life or reversing aging or slowing it down at least. What he did was he had a few test subjects, including himself, and he performed many human testy transplants. This ended up improving the physical shape of the subjects, and the older subjects with gray hair, their hair restored to its original color, which proved that this worked. One of the first organizations around this was the National Institute of Aging, which was made to help older people, help them live longer, help them live in better places. And currently there is the Stanford, which has a very big institute around this called Stanford Med. They do a lot with life extension, and that's kind of a big part of our topic today.
GDF11 is a protein that is found in animals. GDF11 stands for growth differentiation factor 11. This GDF11 protein has been showing rejuvenation effects on bones, muscles, blood vessels, the heart, and brains of older animals. According to the National Medical Library, when GDF11 levels are supplemented, it reverses functional impairment and restores genetic integrity. GDF11 is a key part of restoring and reversing human aging. The Life Extension Foundation was founded in 1980, and their mission is to try and figure out how to actually reverse aging. Since 1980, they have performed many research projects and lab experiments to try and find the secret of how to reverse aging, and they actually do a lot of work with how the well-being of the body connects to how humans can live longer.
Okay, so now we're going to get down to the business of how human lives actually slow down in the end. So as you're born, you have your chromosome right here, and as you get older, your cells divide to sort of develop that extensive height and everything that grows on you. So as your cells divide, your telomeres, which are the very ends of the chromosomes, they actually get shorter with every single division. So when you're about 60 to 70, your chromosomes are or your telomeres on your chromosome are actually so short that you can't sustain your life any longer. So your body sort of slowly starts to shut down. So what we've discovered, or what we researched, is that there are ways to do this, as Tyler said, with Stanford Med. In 2015, they had a surgery which they marked as successful. They extended the chromosome by, I believe it was 21 codons for 48 hours, which that proves that there is a successful surgery, but we need to do more research about how to have this, instead of the telomeres being extended for 48 hours, for 10, 20 years, so that you can really start to experience those effects of human life extension. So what our real idea is research technology that can help us extend this chromosome. So we're research codons, any sort of machines that help us do this, like with the GDF11 protein. That's one of the big ways to have the extra codon addition. And then obviously there's radiotherapy, but we're going to stick with the GDF11 protein as it has the most successful results. What does this mean to us as humans? This really, you get to meet your grandparents, as I know some of us in here have never met our grandparents or even our great-grandparents. I definitely remember having a few years to spend with those. But this also means we have great advancements in technology for science, like CRISPR and any other sort of program like that, with machinery that can actually change the DNA. That really helps with major advancements. I mean, we could fix genetic cures like blindness or deafness or anything like that, and really provides great new paths for the future. So really look forward to this. Yes.
So we have 3 main goals for this project. Our first is to have 50 people trained in 5 years. The reason we chose 5 years is because it actually takes 5 years for postgraduate medical students to be able to perform surgery.
Our next goal is to have 10 successful surgeries about 2 years later, and our final, most important goal is for this to become a common procedure in hospitals in the next 20 years. Our action plan is to get in touch with Stanford to hopefully receive approval from them after we propose our ideas, and our funding will go to furthering research and also helping develop new technologies that will enable us to perform this surgery more accurately, and then we will use that to then train Stanford medical students, which again, it will likely become a course for them. And finally, this will be publicly released in hospitals, hopefully within the next 20 years.
Our budget is split into 3 main steps. 1, creating a contract with Stanford for an addition. 2, finding and funding researchers. And 3, providing funding for all of the required supplies for research and development. Our proposal today is for $1 million to come from funding and for Stanford to price match this amount by 50%. This means that for every $1 we donate to Stanford, they will give an additional 50 cents. This brings our total up to $1,500,000. Step 1 is to build an addition onto an existing building of Stanford's. Buildings of theirs that will best fit this department are the Stanford Center on Longevity, the Lifespan Development Laboratory, or any medical building that's fully focused on medical treatment. This addition will be fully focused on the development of a process to complete a successful surgery on the extension of telomere lengths. This building will be 1,500 square feet at $250 per square foot. This will bring the initial building costs to $375,000, while Stanford will cover all of the taxes and utility fees for the next 5 years. Step 2 is to find and fund researchers. Stanford will find the lead researcher through an application process. Once chosen, this lead researcher will go through the same application process to find an assistant researcher. Through the funding given, Stanford will provide an annual salary of $70,000 to the lead researcher for 5 years, and then the assistant researcher will get a $65,000 annual salary for the next 5 years. And their salaries combined after those 5 years will add up to a total of $675,000. Step 3 is to fund all of the required supplies and tools needed for research and development. This, the initial setup cost will be given $200,000, and $50,000 will be given as a yearly stipend for any repairs or replacements needed. With Stanford's permission through a signed contract, this department will be given the usage of larger, more costly medical equipment that they need. And if our researchers meet their set goal, then Stanford will consider funding continual research past our 5-year agreement. In conclusion, human life extension has been a desire for thousands of years. As this idea has become more advanced in the medical field, or advanced, scientists all around the world have taken interest in it. This interest has brought to life multiple organizations such as the National Institute of Aging, Calico, or the Stanford Center for Longevity. Research done in these organizations, and as well as many others, has brought to life or has led to major breakthroughs such as the GDF11 protein that is capable of rejuvenation, and or the relationship between the telomere length and how long a person is able to live. Our proposal goals are to have multiple personnel trained in the act of completing a successful surgery on the extension of telomere length. We will complete these goals by partnering with Stanford University and funding research, development, and training to help these personnel complete the surgery. Our proposal is for $1 million to come from funding, and for Stanford to price match this amount by 50%. This will add $500,000 to our grand total, which will then provide us the 1,500 square foot addition, 2 full-time researchers, and all of the required supplies needed for research and development. If, as stated before, if our researchers meet their set goal, then Stanford will consider funding continual research past our 5-year agreement.
It is actually a surgery. So what they'll do is they'll modify a protein or any sort of protein in your body, and they'll have that just extend the telomeres. So during a DNA replication, it'll actually add more codons to the telomere onto your chromosome. So it is a surgery.
So our goal for this project is for this to actually be a treatment and not a product. So we would try to keep it away from like necessarily just rich people wanting to extend their lives just because they can. Now we don't exactly know who that would target, but we have a lot of years to figure that out, so we're not really worried about it.
This next group will be speaking about behavioral medications.
Hello. We're the group that's doing behavioral medication in minors. I'm Eden. This is Lindsay and Callie, and we're from Goochland. And that is Caleb and Cole from Nelson. So, what do we want the grant for? We want this grant to put towards researching the long-term effects of ADHD medication. When we were researching this topic for our papers, we all kind of researched different behavioral disorders that can be treated with medication, and we settled on ADHD because it's a very well-known and widely medicated disorder in minors. What is ADHD? I know most of you probably know, but just in case, it is a disorder in which the dopamine levels in an individual's brain are lower than normal. So they have a hard time with things like motivation, because dopamine is the chemical in your brain that's directly responsible for your feelings of like satisfaction and therefore motivation. So people who have ADHD tend to do a lot of things that give them quick hits of dopamine and have a hard time getting themselves to do things like schoolwork or things that aren't directly interesting to them. What kind of medication treats ADHD? Stimulants are the #1 kind, and the kind we're talking about today. They just kind of help to regulate the dopamine levels in the brain and help somebody with ADHD to function a little more like someone who doesn't have ADHD.
What is Adderall? Adderall is a potent amphetamine that targets the nervous system in the body. Adderall is a stimulant that is used to speed up the messages from the brain and the nervous system. In people who have ADHD, it basically does the opposite. It slows down their nervous system and like messages from the brain so they can focus and study in school and in their life. We're mainly studying the long-term effects of Adderall on the brain and how it like damages it. Adderall mainly damages like the cells and deteriorates them. So like in the brain, the cells will cluster up and can cause seizures and strokes. And in the heart, it can cause like missed rhythm or something, and it can cause like heart attacks. The government is mainly studying the effects of Adderall, and they haven't gotten too much in like the cure of how we can make it less detrimental on cells and stuff, and they're just studying like what it does to the brain right now.
So the compelling issues for our topic, there's 2 pretty big ones that kind of branch out into a few others. One of them is concerns that parents have. When looking into putting their kids on ADHD medication, they're met with a lot of misinformation, different, like, conflicting information. When I was researching for my paper, I would find 1 or 2 articles that would say, ADHD medication has this, this, and this side effect and can cause all these problems long term. And then the next few articles I would read would say that there was no proven side effects. So it's really like discouraging to parents who are looking to help their children if it's giving them all this mixed information. Another thing is that if it really does have these bad long-term effects, if you look at this graph, from ages 4 to 17, the kids diagnosed with ADHD, about 74% are taking behavioral medication for their ADHD. And if it really does have long-term effects that are negative and harmful, we really need to know so that we can protect all these kids who are taking this medication.
Our plan is to run a 2-year-long study across the state of Virginia to determine the long-term effects that Adderall has on a child's brain. We will have 50 minors ages 7 to 16, and they will all be expected to record their symptoms on a digital platform. And this is so our 2 neuroscientists can easily access the data, and it will all be in the same format. And our 2 neuroscientists are the ones who are conducting all of the research for this. So they will also be running our CT scans, and there will be 3 throughout the process. 1 in the beginning, 1 in the middle, which is the 1-year mark, and 1 at the end, which is the 2-year mark. And these CT scans will show us if and when there is a change in the brain. So if the change happens within a few weeks or months of taking Adderall, we will see that change on the second CT scan, which is at the 1-year mark, and we can see how much it progresses throughout the 2 years. And then if it happens after a year, we'll see that in the final CT scan and see that they're safe for a year, and then it starts to progress throughout the time. And we hope that the research conducted from this experiment can be used to help doctors and patients with their parents, because like Eden said, there's not much research currently on the long-term effects. It's mainly just the short-term effects. And so we can use this research so parents are more safe, feel more safe when putting their child on medication to treat their ADHD.
So we would like to obtain a federal grant
that extends the research of ADHD in minors. So for our experiment, the age gap will be from 7 to 16. 7 is the youngest age because ages 6 and younger are not, they're not really supposed to have ADHD medication. To log our symptoms, we are going to do it digitally like people did at the start of COVID. This way, it is all in the same format, so it is easier for the two neuroscientists to gather data whenever they need it. We are going to share our information with doctors to hopefully help children with ADHD. This will kickstart and add on to the already researched data surrounding this topic, and it'll also help us get a clearer picture on how ADHD affects minors' brains.
Overall, we are requesting $894,000. Over half of our budget will be allocated towards CT scans. As she mentioned, there will be 3 per individual. $320,000 will be put forth towards 2-year salaries for 2 neuroscientists, and the rest of the money, which is $122,000, will be put forth towards advertisement before experimenting, the cost of Adderall over the 2-year period, and towards payment for the individuals for their time and effort. And then we will be requesting a $1,000 leeway, which doesn't seem like much, but all of these costs are estimated at their higher range, so we probably wouldn't need that much leeway, but we're just asking for it now because it's most acceptable. To conclude, our cost will be $894,000. We'll be selecting 50 individuals ages 7 through 16 to participate in this experiment. They will be consuming Adderall over a 2-year period and tracking their personal symptoms that they realize that they have developed. And they will also they will have 3 CT scans over the 2 years so that they can see if any physical conditions have developed, such as psychosis or nerve cell damage on the brain. And the neuroscientist will collect the data and compare with other neuroscientists or other people that are doing experiments similar or the exact same experiment, and they will publish the symptoms that are most common amongst all of the subjects so that parents can determine whether or not Adderall will be, or whether or not Adderall is a good form of treatment for ADHD.
Any questions? We chose Adderall just because it's one of the most commonly prescribed ADHD medications, and the experiment would probably be for people who haven't taken an ADHD medication before, just so that we can see like somebody fresh, clean, hasn't had this medication before, and see the changes in their brain just over these 2 years and not be affected by other years of taking the medication. That is obviously a risk factor when signing up for a experiment like this. We're paying our patients a lot of money, and they're fully aware that this is what they're signing up for. If long-term effects did present and they were like significant enough, there'd probably be some kind of compensation, but considering that lots of people have been taking ADHD medication for a long time, and we haven't heard of any like super severe like things at this point, there probably wouldn't be something that badly. We just want to know if there are bad things happening, what they are.
your first question where it was like, what was your first question? Sorry. Well, basically, it like stimulates and speeds up your messaging from your brain, and like, it basically like hypes you up, and gives you a lot of energy. And I haven't studied into the second part. Sorry.
If you don't have ADHD and you take a stimulant, it will typically act like some kind of drug that, like some kind of illegal substance usually. That's why things like this are controlled substances. Adderall specifically is something that a lot of people like want to take if they don't have ADHD because it makes them feel like really high and like they're on a drug they're not supposed to be on.
Yeah. So just on your experiment itself, you're going to have the children record their own symptoms, or you're going to have a parent or someone else record these symptoms?
So if the child is like our age, they'll probably be able to track their own symptoms because they know their body more. But if it's like a 7-year-old, they might need their parents' help because they're not going to know as much. So the parents can help the children, and we'll try to give them that talk beforehand so that they know what to expect.
Okay, thank you.
Just as a housekeeping thing, no cell phones should be out at this point in time at all. They should be off and put away. The last group before lunch, I know that's an exciting topic, we'll be speaking about alternative medicines.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bill. This is Grant, Lottie, Jack, and Hauser. We are here today to request a grant to help fund the education on alternative medicines for Central Virginians. Originating in ancient China, India, and Native American tribes, alternative medicines have helped and will continue to help many people. Complementary or alternative medicines, also known as CAM, have recently grown in popularity due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many people believe that alternative medicines are scams or can even harm them. Research shows, however, that this is not true, and alternative medicines can be very beneficial to the user and in their health. We think that the public needs to be properly educated about alternative medicines so they can make their own medical decisions.
Okay, hi, I'm Hauser, and so some current actions or events that are happening around CAM. There hasn't been a lot of research surrounding CAM or centered around CAM in the past. So scientists don't know a lot about CAM compared to other medical treatments or practices. So not a lot of people trust CAM because it's like, why would you trust something that you don't know anything about? I don't think anybody would do that. So we think with more research in the future, more people would start to trust CAM and use it more than other medical practices.
CAM is not relied upon like other medicinal practices. This is because of the lack of research and money that has been put into the science. It does not require as much education and studying as other medicines. This is because it's not considered to be a medicine. So, like massages, for example, are a type of CAM. They do not require as much years of schooling as different types of surgery. With more research, people could rely upon these, rely on these practices, and this would increase their global reputation.
Our group's proposal is to place advertisements and start new classes to help spread awareness about CAM, as well as to educate students about alternative medicine methods and practices. We believe that implementing classes in schools can help educate the younger generation about CAM, and that placing advertisements in well-trafficked areas in various locations around our city can help all generations gain access to reliable, accurate, and easy to understand information.
Lawmakers and companies will be lobbied to try and raise money to study alternative medicines. There was recently a bunch of third parties that worked together to ask Congress to implement alternative medicines into it was like a science organization, and this was to help raise money and awareness for CAM. These plans need to be put into place as soon as possible to get CAM advertised so that we can have the benefits from the CAM medicine. There should be an increase in the use of CAM and CAM effectiveness on patients when the CAM advertisements go out.
We have created a budget to show you where our grant money will be going once we have received it. First, we are hiring a social media consultant and website manager to further spread our message online. A social media consultant can help us reach a younger audience and spread information quickly. A website manager will allow us to have a database of accurate and up-to-date information that anyone can access. Next, we will hire teachers who will establish programs at universities in Central Virginia to educate younger folk about CAM. Next, we will have TV and radio advertisements, and we will buy time slots and recording equipment to make quick and easy to understand advertisements about the benefits of CAM. Next, we will have tri-annual surveys to make sure that our program is also see what our public thinks of it. Finally, we will have public health consultants to check these surveys and make sure that the public is perceiving the information we're giving out correctly. You may notice that our first year costs are much higher than after that, and that is due to cost of supporting equipment and contract bonuses with many of our employees that we are hiring.
In conclusion, we believe that with our proposed steps forward, CAM could become the next big medical piece in our world today and could help a lot of people who are in a lot of pain have less pain and solve their medical problems that maybe in the past they couldn't solve easily. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I discovered cryotherapy. It's basically you go into a chamber that I believe is negative 160 degrees Celsius, and it's supposed to, I don't think relax, but it's supposed to make your energy go up. It's supposed to amp you up. And it's mainly for recovery and athletes.
a lot of Native American tribes used crops as their form of alternative medicine alongside very primitive surgeries. Dried corn is one of them, sweet grass, onion roots are some other ones, ashwagandha as well.
I also found an example. Psychedelics were used in the 60s a lot. And they were considered to be like, they had a bad connotation, but like they can be used in good ways if used in a controlled environment.
All right, so how we're going to release for lunch will be by your groups. I'm going to ask the groups that I call to please come through this door and run down the table as usual. You obviously, as usual, can eat in here, but do make sure no trash is left at all. The trash cans are sort of small, but there are 3 in here and there's several in the hallway. Okay, so if mandatory vaccines and sustainable agriculture would please come get in line. Artificial intelligence and human malnutrition next, please. Next, genetic modification in agriculture and stem cell theory.
Relatively tough to solve, there is a potential solution called bio-based products.
Bio-based products are derived from natural and organic materials. It is an alternative to harmful and non-renewable products and function the same as normally used petroleum-based products. The natural and organic materials are most often used to make biolubricants, which are fluids that can produce, that are used for cleaning supplies, and biofuel, which is made by burning leftover biomass, and biolubricants. All of these products are completely bio-based and function the same as petroleum-based products. Businesses, the government, and individuals alike all greatly influence the production, consumption, and implementation of bio-based products.
One major way the government implements bio-based products is by the Bio-Preferred program, which is led by the United States Department of Agriculture. The Bio-Preferred program was first created during the 2002 Farm Bill and then later expanded and altered. This initiative aims to aid in developing more bio-based products while also expanding the market for it. Gevo is a good example of a business that implements bio-based products. This company uses organic chemicals and converts them into biofuel, which is much less harmful than fossil fuels and reduces the emission of greenhouse gases. Along with Gevo, Ecovative Design is another company that uses organic materials and converts them into bio-based products. Ecovative Design creates a new alternative to traditional plastics by creating bioplastics. With the help from businesses and governments, bio-based products can definitely be more frequently used and implemented.
When it comes to bio-based products, one of the most commonly discussed issues is their higher cost. On average, bio-based products are about 80% more expensive to produce in comparison to regular types of products and plastics. Oh yes, and this significant price increase does not change once bio-based products and regular products hit the shelves all over the world. Once products hit the shelves, there's a 20% increase price comparison between bio-based products and regular products. We decided as a group, our way to fix this is to educate more people on this significant increase, this price. As a group, we decided the way to change the way to change the prices and make this huge price gap decrease is to educate more on why bio-based products are all around better.
So for our proposal, we are asking for $1.1 million to spend on bio-based lunch products, which include forks, knives, spoons, and trays. Our first $1 million will be coming from the Virginia Department of Education, and the second $100,000 will be coming from the company Biomass, who is also where we will be purchasing our products. So one of the reasons why we're doing it in schools is so that kids will be using them in lunch and then therefore be more likely to use them in their adulthood. And we will also be teaching them during seminars so that they're more educated and more likely to use them once again in their adulthood. Another reason why we're implementing them into schools is because schools are a very large producer of non-renewable products. So if they start using bio-based products instead, it'll have a good impact on the bio-based economy and our environment because it'll reduce pollution.
Like Michael said, our group plans to replace the typical plastic and styrofoam lunch trays and utensils with bio-based options. In order to do this, our group will first measure the amount of waste produced before switching to the bio-based products. And when we do this, we're going to take two factors into consideration. A, how much physical waste is being produced, so the pounds, the weight, and then B, how long does it take for these items to decompose. And then our next step is going to be to test different items, bio-based items, to see which ones are most suitable for the schools. And when we do this, we're going to test the durability, the usability, the appearance, and then also, of course, we're going to take the cost into consideration. Our third step is going to be to actually distribute the products into the schools where they'll be using them for a whole school year. Our fourth step is to create 3 different presentations to educate the students about why they should use bio-based products. And we're going to have 3 different ones because we have 3 different age groups: elementary school, middle school, and high school. And, let's be honest, a kindergartner is not going to learn the same way a high schooler does. So, yeah. And then our 5th step is to measure the amount of waste produced after using the bio-based products. And we're going to take the same factors into consideration that we did when we're measuring the amount of waste with the plastic and styrofoam products. And then our sixth and final step is to survey students and staff and see how they like the products and if there's anything we can improve on, and overall just give input about these products.
So like Michael said earlier, the area we decided on is Suffolk City Public Schools, which is like 40 minutes away from Virginia Beach. They have 14,500 students across 22 schools and 2,300 staff members, adding up to 16,800 total people. We would order so there's no way of knowing how many people buy lunch each day. So we would just play it safe and assume that everybody that we accounted for is getting lunch at school. So first we would divide the total number of people by number per box. So like 400 or 16,800 divided by 400. And then multiply that by how many days we're doing it for. So we're going to order it every marking period. So 45 days of marking period, multiply those two together. We have 1,890 for trays and 765 for forks, spoons, and knives per marking period. And each marking period, that would cost roughly $56,000 for forks, $56,000 for knives, $54,000 for spoons, and $98,000 for trays, adding up to $266,000 per marking period for all of it, and $1.06 million per year. We are asking for $1.1 million, as Michael stated earlier. The $1.06 million will go to the products themselves, and the rest of it will go to research, education, and shipping for our truck drivers and all that.
In conclusion, the main purpose of this project is to implement bio-based products into schools and further educate all on why they are so critically important for a better future. The $1 million that we would be getting from the Virginia Department of Education, along with the additional $100,000 from biomass packaging, would be more than enough money to get us a good start while working in Suffolk City with Suffolk City Public Schools and moving inward and to be able to cover the majority of the schools in the state of Virginia. All of that money would be great would help to solve this problem. It would take a while, but it is a much needed change.
I think it's a great idea. Let me correct on numbers. 266,000 per 9 weeks, thereabouts. About $1 million total for a year. And I'm just asking, any research or any directives? What about silverware and regular plates and washing for $1 million? Did any research as to whether that would be comparable or not? Because again, in the olden days, you got your tray, you got your plate, you washed it, and now you're doing away with all of any of those compostables. And again, I'm asking, any research into that?
will pinpoint the best time to enact a vaccine mandate. This is obviously because of the massive discrepancy in opinions in the public, whereas, like he said, people want to mandate it instantly, and some people think the last thing you should ever do is mandate a vaccine. You can do this by surveying people and projecting how many people are vaccinated and the rate of infection. The point between right before these lines cross on your graph would be the best time to enact a vaccine mandate. This is because waiting to do the vaccine mandate gives it more credibility and puts more trust from your public into your government who's enacting this mandate. Majority of people have phones and use social media. So to get the app out there, we want to create ads for it and other methods. By doing this, people would download the app, answer pre-made questions in their survey, so you would have a wide range of data to create very accurate scans. This would then reduce the level of confusion and the spread of false information that was so prevalent during the COVID pandemic. This app would be used majority to prevent from happening 2 years ago happening now, and it could be used for any vaccine or disease, virus or disease that is prevalent now or has yet to exist. And also with the app being the surveyor, you remove potential bias from a face-to-face survey or other forms of surveys. This way, we could prevent a lot of the issues Cam talked about, as I previously stated.
One next step in relation to mandatory vaccines is increasing vaccine uptake and combating vaccine hesitancy. Despite the proven benefits of mandatory vaccines in controlling the spread of diseases, there is still a significant portion of the population that is either skeptical of vaccines or chooses not to vaccinate themselves or their children. One reason for this is a lack of trust in the vaccine development process, as well as concerns about vaccine safety and effectiveness. To address these concerns, it is important to engage in open communication about vaccines and to provide accurate information on their benefits and risks. This can be done through educational campaigns, public health initiatives, in collaboration with healthcare providers and community leaders. Another critical area of need is improving access to vaccines. In many parts of the world, vaccine access is limited by factors such as poverty, lack of infrastructure, and lack of education. To address these barriers, we can implement programs and policies that make vaccine access more accessible and affordable to everyone, regardless of their economic status. As stated earlier, our idea is to design an app that uses data provided by public surveys to determine the most effective time to distribute a vaccine to the general population. Additionally, initiatives such as providing transportation to vaccine clinics, offering vaccines for free or at a lower cost, and increasing the number of vaccine clinics in underserved areas can also be implemented to help make vaccines more accessible. In summary, the next steps in regard to mandatory vaccines are combating vaccine hesitancy, providing accurate information, and improving access to vaccines.
So for our budget, we're requesting a total of $413,630. So this is broken up into an initial cost of $102,630 and a future cost of $311,000 over a 5-year time period to maintain our app. So as you can see on the screen, our initial costs are made up of the programming team who's going to develop the app. That's going to cost $8,580. We need to create the app itself, publishing it on an app store or just like a general platform that people can access. That costs $25,000. Trademarking any logos and the algorithm itself within the app, that's going to cost $2,500. We're also going to create an informational website to educate the public about the app. That's going to cost $12,000 to maintain that. And then our advertising for the app costs an additional $54,000. So as you can see from the graph on screen, over half of our funds are being put towards advertisement. Now this might seem like a waste of money, but what we found is that educating the public about the app is one of the most crucial pieces of this project because people are less likely to doubt any results that might be produced by the app. And they're also much more likely to get the vaccine if they know how the algorithm works. So our final costs are also much higher than our initial costs, and this is mainly because of the advertising. The majority of our final costs are made up of the advertising, which is $54,000 for 1 year. So in conclusion, we are designing an app that is going to be able to analyze a variety of data points and effectively determine what the best time to distribute a vaccine to the public would be. The budget that we're asking for would integrate the algorithm into an app that could be more widely accessed by public health organizations, governments, and the general public. Informational websites and advertisements would also be created to have the public better understand the application and what's going on behind the scenes with the algorithm. We believe that if properly utilized, the application that we've developed has the potential to revolutionize the way we combat diseases both on a local scale and a global scale.
What happens if you have someone like me who has no idea about apps on their phone? Because I don't.
So that's the main reason behind our advertisements and things. So we want to get this into the public eye very easily, whether that's in the form of like newspaper advertisements or billboards like around the world. We just want to spread the information so everybody's exposed to it.
So we plan to make it super easy to understand, like the coding the app. That's why we're hiring programmers to do that. We're not doing that stuff. And then once the app is complete, it'll be very easy for the public to understand and use.
So the reason why we decided to make this app was for getting rid of some of that bias and the differentiation. And by promoting this app and explaining that for the people who don't want the vaccine to ever be mandated, this is the biggest way that they'll have as much freedom as possible with it. And the people who are afraid that everyone's going to die because no one's going to get vaccinated, this gives them that safety net for them. So the more people who have the app, it's kind of got that voter effect where, like, if you want your opinion shared, you have to participate in the app and you have to put your opinions on the app by saying, hey, I'm vaccinated, I would prefer other people to be vaccinated, or I'm not vaccinated, I don't prefer other people to be vaccinated. Thank you.
You point it that way.
There are 15 groups because that's how many we have on our paper. Maybe there's only 14. Looking at this. We need to my fingers. It looks so disgusting. Nail polish will not stick to my finger. Green. I think it's green. I'm between red, green, and yellow. I need to get mine done. I was about to say, was it that other color? Oh, no. Green, got like.
All right, this group will be sustainable agriculture.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Towns. This is Kara, Zach, Isaac, and Sam. Today we'll be talking about sustainable agriculture, most importantly, composting. Do you have a compost bin at your school? I'm sure you'd like to after knowing that U.S. school food totals are 530,000 tons per year. The topic of composting came about due to the Green Revolution. In the 1960s, this idea arose due to the growing concern about the world's ability to feed itself. A way that composting can be most efficient is by pairing it by being composted by school's food, which is a community farm. Now, this community farm will be about 4 acres, and there will be 5 different farms. This needs to be brought to school's attention now due to the positive effects it can have on education and on climate change.
So there are many colleges which have sustainability programs, including UVA and Virginia Tech. UVA did a program recently where they have a school farm, and Virginia Tech was interested in carbon sequestration, which is locking carbon underground or in a ecosystem to reduce carbon in the atmosphere, which they worked on with Virginia Energy. So government research has been greatly invested in this topic as well. The USDA's Conservation Research Program has updated its farm bill to be 27 million acres. All of this land now given to the government so that way it can be safely taken care of. This land is no longer able to be taken care of as farmland. With this knowledge, we now know that farmland has been decreasing exponentially, so we must make sure that we have proper education so that we can prepare for climate crises. Further investment has come from the U.S. government systems, including the National Institute of Food and Agriculture Sustainability Program, which has worked with the University of California and the University of Hawaii. Some forms of sustainable agriculture include carbon sequestration, which is locking carbon into an ecosystem or underground, aquaponics and hydroponics, farming on water, nutrient cycling systems, including composting and fertilization systems, and that's all. So this is a very compelling issue because we have, as we've been stating multiple times, we are greatly losing farmland in America. We must make sure that we have enough farmland to sustain ourselves in the future and in the climate crises, as there will be less farmland to sustain a more amount of people growing in the future. So we need to educate our youth and ourselves about how this can be properly maintained. Educating the school systems and educating the communities around them is one way to do this, and we are looking forward to giving you our proposal of sustainable agriculture through composting and fertilization systems.
Due to the increase in population and food needs, our proposal is to make 5 4-acre lots in each of the school districts in Central Virginia. These lots will have community farms that anyone can use. There will be a limit on how much produce one person can take per week so that one person doesn't come and take all the food that the students have been working so long to farm. The food will go directly to the community, into school lunches or wherever it needs to go, really. The first year will be paid for and fertilized with bagged fertilizer. However, after that, it will be mostly fertilized by the compost formed by the school. The compost will be from school lunches and the excessive food that's wasted per year from the food that's being farmed in the schools themselves. The farms will also be run through sustainable ways, trying to limit carbon emissions, any forms of greenhouse gases, and limit runoff into the ecosystem.
So we are going to create 4-acre farms near high schools in 5 counties in the Central Virginia area. The main purpose of these are to feed the schools and community. We will create compost bins that will be distributed throughout the community. Trucks will pick them up and bring them to the main farm. We will create a class in the schools that will have the students working on the farm, and they will learn about sustainable agriculture and how to work on a farm. We'll know if our if this has succeeded, since we'll survey students to see if they like the new options they have and like working on the farm. And there'll be a sheet where farmers will sign whenever they pick up the compost to use for fertilizer. So we know when and how much they've gotten.
All right, so we're going to talk about the budget real quick. The first thing we need is our purchases, which our biggest purchase is going to be the 20 acres of land, 5 4-acre lots. That comes to about like $92,000 with the average price of acre for like $4,500 in Central Virginia. The next thing we need is fertilizer for the first year of each farm, because we haven't started using our compost yet because we haven't collected enough of it yet. That's around $9,000, and that's bagged fertilizer. And everything else up there, like seeds, water, and farm tools, that's all going to be annual costs. So every year we're going to have to keep buying those items. And one thing I did not put up there is a safety net, which is going to be $100,000. So our asking price is $257,000 with a $100,000 safety net. The safety net is just for in case we have like a bad year and don't produce anything in one of our farms, or something catastrophic happens and we can't fix it right away. So that's about it.
To preface, our proposal is an organization that will help and provide schools with the materials and methods they need to have a 4-acre farm for 5 different counties. This will produce fresh produce for the school, and they can use this and see the results of their hard work from collecting compost, which a lot of students don't normally see when doing a fundraiser at school, which will help make this farm more sustainable over time. We are asking for $273,000. This could be helped with ag programs at schools, such as Zach was talking about, and we can also promote this to keep happening and help save our environment by letting students know about the dangers of climate change and what they can do to help prevent it. Thank you. Questions?
First off, I love this idea. I'm a big composter myself. When it comes to composting, are you going to have the kids separate things into different bins? What are you going to compost? Are you composting just vegetables or meat or everything? Are you going to use their bio trays, compost them too? I'm just curious about what exactly you're going to compost.
So our plan in terms of compost, we could definitely have the students, it's kind of up to what the school wants to do itself. So we're giving them the resources to have the land and to have all of the facilities and the equipment needed. But it's kind of up to the school board about how they want to handle the composting systems. If they do want to divide it separately into food systems, meat, and produce, that's up to them. We are looking for like the most sustainable option, so probably yes. But ultimately, it is up to the school system itself.
We would probably recommend that schools would do most food, and they would make, people who work in the lunch areas to make sure that students are giving the right things to the compost bin, which would most likely we'd recommend be food, like all food.
And I'm just, again, I'm a composter also, and I'll ask the question, if you all are, what's one of the downfalls of having all of this food laying around in one location? One.
It would probably be the smell. So like if we were to have all this compost in one area and we weren't able to use it because we already filled our fields up with compost, then it would just A, go bad, or B, just smell terrible.
What we were talking about is having a company take it to a different location, so it wouldn't be smelling up the school, for a lack of a better term.
So you did have conversation about that.
Yes, I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but transportation was, I believe, in the budget.
I know for me also, a negative, the bad smell is also a good smell
Fleas.
Get a lot of critters in compost. Critters.
Stop that right now. They're varsity team, but you are varsity team. Don't do it up there.
Okay, our group next will be doing artificial intelligence.
Hello, I'm Chase. This is Malachi, Connor, Emma, Dale, and Zach. And we are doing artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the simulation of human-based intelligence through systematic coding. It was created by Alan Turing in 1948 in a presentation titled Intelligent Machinery. It is characterized by machine learning capabilities, which are essentially where a machine or a piece of technology learns and grows through consistent experience. It is widely regarded as an important piece of humanity's future, and from there we go on to the next part.
So there was a private company that did some research about AI X-rays, and some of the results were quite shocking. They found that the pictures that the X-rays take is highly improved, and the details are way better than the modern X-rays being used in hospitals right now. This will help you find any harmful or risk that's inside the body, which could help save people's lives or save even money by finding that faster. It's way faster to process the images, which will allow you to, since the AI will be able to see all the harmful stuff inside the bones or anything like that, which will allow the radiologist to look at it and find anything wrong. Overall, will be less time. And then there's about $26 million raised from the public and government officials, will be put forward to further research about this topic. And there's global research being done about this topic right now, with notable universities of Harvard and Stanford already doing research about this for like 5 to 6 years now, and continue to do that in the future.
All right, now we're moving on to the compelling issue. So right now, as Dale stated, that there is an issue in UVA hospitals with X-rays right now. They don't have clear imaging, nor are they time efficient. They also have a rejection rate of 25%, which is images that have been taken by these X-rays that have been rejected because they cannot be seen by radiologists, and they have been rejected. This puts current X-rays used at a disadvantage because they make up about 80% of imaging done. This can be combated by new technologies such as medical AI X-rays that could be instated into UVA's radiology rooms.
Our group proposes that we get $18.8 million to fund a renovation in the UVA Medical Center Radiology Department. $1 million of that will come from the Blue Ridge Grant, and $17.8 million that will come from UVA. UVA will want to fund this because the new X-ray rooms that we plan to install will allow for greater efficiency, so from 15 or 14 people a day to about 18 to 19 people a day over a span of a year. That's very economically pleasing for UVA leaders to see, and also it allows for the UVA curriculum to be greatly enlarged and able to train technicians and operators of this equipment.
So, as stated previously, we plan to renovate the radiology department in UVA. We don't expect this to be finished until around 2028 or 2029 due to the time it takes to ship all of the parts, as well as building it and hiring the technicians to build it. Then we also need a permit to properly operate them, and we need to train the AI in the imaging technology. We would, over the course of about a year, measure the average rejection rates seen in these x-ray rooms, and we would get the average amount of people seen per day. We would consider this a success if the rejection rate goes below 25%, although we would also like to see an increase in people seen through this x-ray room per day.
So I got a lot to get through in a short amount of time, so please bear with me. Okay, so in my budget, I'm going to be going over three things: income, expenses, and our overall summary of how this is going to work. Can you get it? Okay, so according to the Virginia Bureau of Statistics, there's about 2,000 people in Virginia who get x-rays done every single month. So out of that, we're looking at, these numbers are over a 2-year span, so this is 2 years total, by the way. So we're going to be doing upper body scans, lower body scans, dental, and that's like specialized dental x-rays, not the ones that you get at the dentist. And we'll also be doing CT scans. CT scans are actually the most expensive. Whether you realize it or not, you're usually paying around $1,500 per CT scan that you get, and that's usually paid from your health insurer, not you. That's why you usually don't have to eat that cost. Upper and lower body, we kind of just took an average statistic based on like the months that we thought most people would have common injuries, and we kind of totaled that up right there. Can you go to expenses, please? Bear with me. There's a lot going on here. So cost of equipment, we're going to do 3 digital x-ray rooms, 3 CT scan rooms, and then how many dental x-rays was it? 3 dental x-rays. We're looking to pay all this off in a 12-month time period. Obviously the loan that we're taking out, we're going to want it to pay it off in a 12-month time period. So we're looking at around $1.7 million just for x-rays, and this is really expensive because whether you realize it or not, it costs a lot of money to renovate a portion of a hospital. So the next one is actually the money that we'll be paying our employees. So we're looking at paying dentists, nurses, radiologists, and marketing and social media people. The marketing and social media person is to kind of get our name out there. We're also looking for like word of mouth. For example, like my dad actually got surgery, and his friend who used to play for the San Diego Chargers was the one who recommended him to go to Ortho VA and see the surgeon there. So we're kind of looking for stuff like that, word of mouth, that we're one of the best places to go. Radiologists get paid a lot of money. They're looking around $360,000 a year to get paid, and that's on the lower end. So we're looking at $480,000 a month to pay radiologists. Nurses in Virginia don't get paid a lot of money. A licensed nurse in Virginia on average gets paid $30,000, and dentists get paid around $60,000, and those are the people who will be doing the x-rays for the dental x-rays. So these are actually the contracting fees where you see that one-time expense is going to be the contracting fee. It's going to be around $3 million to renovate that, and we took that on 16,000 square feet, and that was how much? $260 per square foot to renovate 17,000 square feet. Solar panels as well. We're looking at 12 industrial solar panels, which cost about $23,000 each. And the reason we're doing solar panels is we don't have to pay an electrician. We don't really have to take care of the maintenance. It's a one-time cost in electricity, and it's good for the environment. NYU actually hosts a summit every single year to train radiologists on how to use new technology. So we'll have to send our radiologists to New York City, and that will be airfare, hotels, the per diem for food, transportation. That's to send them there to get trained, pretty much. I mean, everybody has to do it. I'm pretty sure you have parents who travel to get trained on their jobs. Legal and professional fees. Every hospital has to have a legal team just in case somebody sues. We have a problem. Somebody gets gets too much radiation from the X-ray and they sue us. You got to pay somebody to take care of that. We also have an insurance plan just in case any of the machinery doesn't end up working. And then licenses in Virginia to run a hospital is around $302 a month, which is like $3,600 a year. Can you scroll down all the way? Okay, so in the first year of running this wing of the hospital, we're going to be around $4 million in debt. By year 2, we'll be $2 million in profit based on our statistics. And then if y'all want to look at the website, you can go down even more. Please. That'd be great. Keep going. You can see where each category and how much money is being spent. So thank you, and that's our piece of the budget. You have to slide show too. Also, one more thing. I actually got this information from my aunt who works in the health industry. She actually teaches people on how to use this technology, so we actually had an expert tell us kind of how this would go down. So.
Okay, moving on to our conclusion. Like Malachi and the other people stated, we are looking to renovate the whole radiology wing for UVA, which will cost about $18.8 million. Like we said, $1 million of this is coming from the grant here, and 17.8 will be coming from UVA. This is very important when you consider that X-rays are one of the most used imaging tools, and it is important not only for patients and doctors and radiologists using this, but also for researchers that will be using this in the future for current medical endeavors and future medical endeavors. So, thank you.
And we're open for questions if you have any.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
I actually had a recent case of having to have an X-ray rejected. This is detailed in our website, but essentially, sometimes they mess up the positioning of the device that's taking the X-ray, and they have to redo the image, such as I broke my collarbone in November, and they had to take an X-ray, but they put the machine too high up, so it did not take a correct X-ray. And then they had to redo it lower, like somewhere around here, to get the full image. Have it rerun the image, which is much more efficient than a human doing it, because when a human is doing it, they have to reposition the machine themselves, whereas the artificial intelligence can move it on its own.
We can transfer the patient to a different machine and maybe get a different result. And there's no promises. I mean, people deal with this all the time, getting false X-rays. So, I mean, it's always going to happen. It's just how you handle the situation.
And with the machines having artificial intelligence, they're able to learn and probably adapt to what the correct angles and all that would be. So if, for say, it's up a little bit, it can go down and learn that, and then it would put it in that system of that's where that X-ray is supposed to go.
I put the NYU thing in there because those people would end up being trained on how to use the machine in case something like this happens.
Are you retaining your X-ray staff at PA, or are you just getting rid of them and replacing with machines?
No, they're actually on the budget every single year. So.
And that was kind of mine. So are you assuming that you're owning UVA before you start? If you're renovating and you're raising money to give the UVA for them to be able to renovate it. But according to what you have there, like I asked the question, is your salary to the, I'm kind of lost on the fact that is your salary to the nurses and the radiologists, is it a bribe or is it a salary? I'm asking that because they already have a salary coming from the UVA, correct?
We're hiring them on behalf of UVA. Does that make sense? We're a section of UVA renovating for them, but we're working under UVA. So the money that we get is going towards UVA, but those people are working for UVA because it is a wing of UVA.
But it's still owned by UVA.
Right. We're just asking for the money. Right.
Well, really, you're asking UVA for 17 million to say we're going to give it back.
Yep, exactly. Over a year's time.
There is also a $2 million profit increase over the 2-year period afterwards.
You're going to make that, not UVA. That does end up going to UVA. Okay.
Any more questions, or is that all?
You know, maybe we shouldn't have gone. Yeah, okay, it was up next. I think so. Oh, God bless. He has metal in his mouth. I saw metal in my mouth.
Alright, so listen up. At this point, two parts of your group need to turn around and talk to each other. And you
One
need
more.
to
One more. Sorry. There's one more group.
God. Wait, that one for years. Oh. I think Cooper should get the grant because he said her in the presentation. Oh wait, who did? Cooper. Go me! I'm so excited now. That's right. See me in line like this? He's like, fine. He's like, thanks for being a snatcher. I know, he's such a boy. He's like, yeah, it's fun. Oh, yeah.
All right, the last group will be doing human malnutrition.
Hello, I'm Andy. This is John, Isabella, Bela, and Petey. And our topic is human malnutrition. Okay, so a little information about human malnutrition. It occurs when the body does not receive enough nutrients. It first came to prominence in the 1950s, mostly in LDCs, with people not being able to get the proper nutrients. So now our grant proposal. Our grant proposal is to make an add-on class for middle school students through the Virginia Department of Education. We believe this class will be beneficial so that young kids can learn what their body needs and how to stay healthy. So why is this important? Human malnutrition is important because the agricultural industries are constantly using biotechnology to make food more nutritious. A good example of this is golden rice, which has a high amount of vitamin A, which can be used to prevent blindness.
There are many different types of malnutrition in the world, and in Virginia, 26% of people are obese and 9% are food insecure. Approximately 13% of children ages 10 to 17 are obese. And in Richmond, recently there have been cases like about 18 to 20% of people coming in that are malnourished. And according to Feeding America, 600,000 people are food insecure, and 200,000 of which are children. There are many programs across the U.S. and in Virginia, such as SNAP, the National School Lunch Program, and WIC, that are supposed to provide people with the means, provide people in need with the means to get food, and sometimes provide meals to them. But just providing the meals and providing the means to get the meals cannot necessarily solve the problem. What we need is education. The current programs in schools today they're not long enough or detailed enough to actually change behavior or to cast out misconceptions around malnutrition or to really explore the causes and effects of malnutrition.
I will be talking about the compelling issue. So we have been talking about a plan to decrease the amount of malnutrition cases in Virginia. This specific issue needs more attention because the amount of cases certainly isn't decreasing. Rather, malnutrition is becoming more prevalent in Virginia. We have applied to add a course to the Virginia education curriculum, and in doing so, this led to the Virginia Department of Education deciding to mandate the course or not. And in order to mandate any course, it must be evaluated and go through a series of steps. When you have confirmation from the Virginia Department of Education, you then, the actions will take place next year, giving enough time to prepare for the significant changes needed. It is, the plan, in other words, is to lobby this course to the Virginia Department of Education so that they accept this plan as a reality. It is imperative that we fully commit to we get full permission from the Virginia Department of Education before fully committing to our expenses. Our group's main goal is to promote our idea throughout society in order to assist with decreasing malnutrition cases.
Our proposal to amend the Virginia SOL would serve to reduce the prevalence of malnutrition in our communities by instituting a mandatory add-on course which would be integrated with other courses already being taught at the school. This course would be taught by teachers who are already at the school, which would reduce the price. Not only that, it would teach the basics of healthy eating and living to students in middle school. We chose this option over others because it was the most cost-effective long-term solution. While many other long-term solutions were considered, we discovered that they would be either far harder to implement, far more expensive, or both.
So we're going to go to the Virginia Department of Education and we'll give them their plan and all their lessons and all that stuff. They'll add it, and then it'll be in 6th grade during a certain period of the day. It'll be for 1 week. Each day will be 45 minutes. We hope that, the course will have information on nutritional ideas, minerals, and obesity. We hope that the impact this leave will give their young adults more information on those topics, and also that they make more educated food choices. We also hope that they will teach the next generation of young adults about the same topics so that it stays like this for a while. We will know if this is working if we ask some of them and they have better educated food diet. We will also take a census after 1 year and see if malnutrition cases are going down. So our budget is $15,000, $20,000. This is the cost to make all the lesson plans and to go to the Virginia Department of Education and to get them to add it. We were thinking of making a whole course for this, but when we did the math, it was $350 million just for the teachers, and that's not including the cost of the rooms or anything else.
In conclusion, malnutrition remains a pressing issue in Virginia, even in high-income areas to this day. Our proposal is a simple and cost-effective long-term solution that we would hope would reduce the amount of malnutrition in our community. Our proposal addresses specific concerns which relate to Virginia's problems and not a nationwide issue. And we believe that it would be very beneficial for the younger generation to start learning about this.
Good job. Malnutrition, my first question I wrote up. Prevalence in Virginia. Do you guys have a stat to, I know you touched real briefly at the beginning. What was your stat for the amount of malnutrition in Virginia? Can you repeat that? Do you remember it?
Off the top of your head, or I'm not putting you on the spot. 9%.
So with that 9%, and again, when you're looking at the huge amount of money you were asking for from the beginning, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, though. Your 9%, you're trying to solve a pretty small problem in Virginia with that. Do you think this might have transferred over to another country a little bit easier than looking for here just in Central Virginia?
In the low or income places where you say that it would, where you said that it would probably be better to implement this program, like they might not have access to education in this way. So I think it's best to start here and possibly move there.
All right, we've come to a point in time where I want you to talk within your groups about how much money literally you want to give to the other presentations. One person from your presenting group will then go to the Google form that Ms. Houghton's going to give you the link to in a moment, and going to record the amount of money you want to give to the specific presentations. Don't use dollar signs, nothing like that. You just put the amount literally in the blank. You don't have to spend the full $1 million on one place, okay? So you may divvy up that amount of money into 5 different groups, or give it all to one if you believe one presentation